full-time equivalent staff with contracted hours went down in the last 10 years by 600, and it went down in the last 12 months, as the Public Services Commission report, the forthcoming report will show, went down by 80 in the last year. So it has gone up in the period 2016 to 18 to a small extent as we filled vacant posts, and we did things like take on the horse trams, and we did things like move over to a more efficient way of delivering the digital services. But in summary, the main point of yesterday's information was it's not that the civil service is growing, it's not that the public services is growing. Reports last year clearly showed that we had a proper management structure, proper HR systems in place. We were doing everything we can to transform the delivery of public service through optimal use of public servants, and the main message needs to be put out there. These are the facts, these are the numbers over 10 years, over 3 years, whatever you want, but we've made out clear graphs for you, and I would really hope this story is accompanied by that graph.
It is peaks and troughs, though, in that graph, to be fair, isn't it?
I don't see it as that. I see it as a trend, and as the population of the Isle of Man grows, which is beginning to grow, we will need more teachers, and we will need more nurses, and we will need more police officers. We won't need more civil servants, because one of the problems you have in a smaller country is that to have a national public policy, you need a certain number of lawyers and proper civil servants doing policy and so on. And civil servants doing policy, civil servants doing regulation and that sort of thing. And the more people you have, they get spread over a greater number of the population, so the percentage changes.
It's an interesting slip of the tongue there, policy, because a lot of people do see and say on the island that it's the civil servants that are running the Isle of Man, not the politicians.
I can categorically disagree with that. There are certain things where the civil servants have taken the lead because it's important for our international agenda, and politicians wouldn't have the expertise on the technical facts. But there are certain things where me and other politicians have clearly led the agenda in the last 2 or 3 years. We've talked in Tynwald yesterday as well about the living wage. The living wage wasn't on the agenda of any civil servant. That was Laurie Hooper and myself working together. Gas regulation wasn't so much on the civil service agenda. In fact, you will remember Manx Radio teasing the chair at the time, David Quirk, about gas regulation, and he was defending it to the hilt for months and if not years. But politicians forced that on the agenda, and we've made substantial progress.
Possibly forced that onto the agenda, didn't they?
Exactly. Positive people power, and politicians are elected. They're the representatives of the people, and when issues need to be fixed, like the licence fee, like gas prices, like the steam packet and steam packet arrangements, all these things have come to the fore much more because of the activity of people and their representatives, the politicians. And it's a myth that civil servants determine everything. Obviously they know, each civil servant knows more about the technical area they operate. Some civil servants have a great picture of everything that's going on across the government. There are civil servants who keep information from politicians, but I can categorically assure the Manx public that there are politicians who are on top of the political agenda at the moment.
Well, we've got you here. Smart Services Framework came up. This is moving or creating, or looking at the feasibility anyway, of creating a single resident record. Now, this was originally, report was received in December 2016, so it's taking forever, isn't it? And a day.
Yeah, there was a great question in the Conservative leadership election broadcast about how words matter, and it's not a single resident record. We're now moving over towards a smart service framework concept more, because we can single resident record still there in the documentation, but what people have got to understand, this is not a national identity framework embryonic. What this is a system of connected services to develop public services efficiently and effectively, making it as easy as possible for everybody to get confidence that every pound that they give to the public service is spent properly on public services as they want to deliver.
Can we break it down into the bare bones? If you or I are putting in for one particular service in government, we have to fill in loads of questions, don't we, which we know government already know.
Exactly. So tell us once is where we want to get to. So if you are being tested for your financial capability or needs or means, however it's called, we want to make sure that if you've told the tax office about it, you can have it in real time, an important point that Mr. Hooper made yesterday, if necessary, and you can have it accurately from somewhere else. But you don't want them to know your whole income tax data. I talked about yes/no queries, and then Mr. Robert Shaw reminded everybody of some complicated binary system, which is a technical term for it. But in essence, we want to be able to send a question when you apply for a student grant. yes, no, do you have below this income or above this income? We don't want to know all about your tax affairs. We just want to know that simple answer. If you apply for a passported benefit, as they're called, free school meals, we don't want you to fill in other forms. We want as maximum as possible for you just to have that information filled in for you, like you already have for some situations. But it goes much beyond that. It
goes towards post office, MEA, doesn't it? And
exactly.
Or MUA, I should say.
Exactly, and it also goes into things like statistics. We have a big census at the moment, which costs us quite a lot of money. Wouldn't it be better if government could have information continuously, more or less, by taking information anonymously from the database? It goes to do with linking the electoral registration data to give us a better indication with other records of people that we have in the island. We need to have a property register which connects with what I'm proposing shortly in terms of rates modernisation. So all this comes together. It's not a short process. I agree with your initial assertion that this started in 2014-15 when a few officials of government and a few politicians seemed to pretend it was easy. It's not easy, it's hard, and we will do it. So in 5 years' time, we hope, and I hope, and I expect that the Manx public will say they do deliver public service smartly in the Isle of Man. They've got the right number of people, the right computer systems, the right public services, and they deliver it in an optimum way.
So smart services framework as opposed to single resident record to deter from this public perception, isn't it, that we're bringing in an identity card?
Exactly that. You've hit the nail on the head. It's not all about doing something to you and finding information about you. It's about making your life better, because you can have confidence that your public service pounds are being spent smartly, and also that you can choose how much information that you provide to the public services used by other people in law and through your consent.